Welcome back to the Motion Podcast. Today we have our very first female guest on the podcast who is a lifelong friend who I've known for ages. Her name is Kaitlyn Srhoj. She's currently playing for GWS Giants. So currently her second year playing for the AFL. And today we're going to be talking about her story, what she's been through, women's health, and what it's actually like playing footy at such a young age. So, Kaitlyn, introduce yourself.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Yes, my name's Kaitlyn Srhoj. I am 19 years old and I'm from Mandurah, WA, but I've just moved over to Sydney, like Malia said, to play for the Giants in AFLW. But yeah, it's an honour to be the first guest.
I know, because I saw her at the gym the other day and I was like, no way, like that's Kaitlyn. I haven't seen you probably like 4 years?
Forever.
4 years, I think it's
Malia and I used to like go to school together. Yeah. We've been like friends since primary school. It's crazy. Yeah. And then obviously
literally
you left school and I finished and we haven't seen each other since.
No, literally just like complete different paths, but now we're back. But I think like literally since I saw you, I was like instantly like, it's like I knew like still.
Yeah, I feel like I'm very comfortable talking to you and I feel like we just picked off.
Yeah, literally. I was like, oh, like I felt like I already knew her.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy, like 4 years and then like felt like I just wouldn't like since primary school. Yeah. So it was like pretty cool to kind of have that connection again. But what was it like for you moving from WA, from what you knew to moving all the way over east?
Yeah, it's a hard move. I think for me, when I applied for the draft, I had two options, either to apply at home and stay in WA or apply nationally and have the option to go anywhere. And I picked national just because for me and my kind of future self, I wanted to be uncomfortable to be comfortable again. I think I was just too comfortable playing footy in WA and just like wasn't getting out of my comfort zone. I didn't really feel challenged. I knew everyone here. And yeah, I got picked up by Giants in Sydney. And yeah, the move was definitely really hard. I think being away from my family has been challenging, but also that's what I expected and that's what I wanted. I think it won't necessarily get any easier. I just think I'll just get used to it. And I find the hardest bit is flying back and forth. It's just head games. But when I'm like in Sydney and back into routine, I feel a lot at ease. And again, my family's just a phone call away. So
yeah. Is it hard like going from being somewhere you're so comfortable with, now you're like in this new area? Yeah. Like is it very scary? Like you don't know where you are? Like is it very new? Is it exciting? Were you nervous or?
I think for me, like at the start when I first got drafted, I was like, I just want to go over there. I'm like so excited. I have so much like endorphins. I just want to meet all the girls. But like the transition, the club made it very seamless. Like it was a very easy transition, but also being 18 and not necessarily like ready to move out of home, but being somewhat forced to move out of home was really challenging. Like just having to learn and like navigate
everything,
life.
doing yourself basically.
Literally like
fresh out of high school, like
literally I had
it's
to
not
learn
easy.
the concept of money in like a week. It is so expensive in Sydney. Like
yeah, the cost of living, what's the difference? Like
oh my god, I don't think I can swear, but it's fucked up.
No, you're fine.
Like rent is just ridiculous over there, but also just like little things add up. Like I don't know, like food, groceries are so expensive. Bills like water, electricity, but also like fuel.
Oh.
But I find like I'm willing to spend that money to like make myself feel better. Like sometimes I'll treat myself with like going for a massage or like going to Pilates class, and I'm willing to spend that money if it makes me happy. But
doing stuff for you.
Yeah, but I guess just being really smart with my money and trying to
especially like at a young age, having to prioritize your savings and stuff that young.
Yeah, it's crazy. I did accounting in year 12 and I really loved it. So I'm like in my fucking era.
In your accounting era.
In my accounting era.
Did you have any idea that you were going to get drafted? Did anyone know? Like your family knew, whatever?
Before the actual draft date, the club pretty much reached out to me and said like, if you're available at this pick, we're going to pick you up. So I obviously got invited to the draft night in Melbourne. And only I think 20 or 10 girls.
So that was like who they picked.
Yeah. So it's like, if you got invited, it's pretty much they're predicting that you're going to be within 1 to 10 in the draft. And it's about 60 draft picks. So I got invited. And by that stage, I was pretty confident that I was going to get picked up. It was just a matter of when and like who.
Crazy.
I was pretty, before Giants mentioned that they were going to pick me up, I was pretty like confident I was going to go somewhere in Victoria somewhere in Melbourne, but I'm pretty glad I landed in Sydney because the weather, like, is just very similar to Perth, I would say.
Yeah.
Just the lifestyle's a bit more full on and
A bit more
hectic.
hectic. It's pretty much like go all the time, is it? Like you wake up and everyone's running and
You literally, if you sleep in, you feel so guilty because
Really?
every man and their dog is running or like walking
shit.
or getting their day started. So like that's been hard because I think as an athlete, like you want to do more, but also less is more. So sometimes you get in your head a bit, like seeing other people do lots of stuff, but
that pressure on yourself,
Yeah,
because you're like, am I not doing enough?
yeah, you just got to remind yourself like you're living a completely different lifestyle to all those people, and
Yeah.
that is their leisure and that's their activity, whereas you've got 5 hours of training to go to the next day. So
I think you're fine. Yeah, you can
literally.
sleep in a bit. But what was it like growing up for you? Like, how did you get into footy? Did you always enjoy footy? Because you were pretty much into basketball.
Yeah, so growing up, I was like a basketball nut. Like,
Yeah.
I frothed it. That's all I wanted to do. Like, I just wanted to be a basketball player until maybe like 2021 is when I had my first like major injury. Pretty much had a full ankle recon.
How did you do that? Was it like
in basketball?
Yeah.
So I just like landed on it. Yeah, trauma.
Trauma.
But was pretty like a life altering moment. Like I kind of had to decide whether or not I wanted to pursue basketball or football. I grew up playing football socially. Like it was never really, I didn't really prioritize it as much as I did basketball. I also was playing netball at some point. Like, I think I was juggling like all three.
Damn.
Yeah, I just like didn't really know what I wanted
Triple
to do.
whammy.
But like I could kick a footy. I made lots of like squads. Like I made a few state squads. Pretty much was in that program up until I was drafted.
So when did you get drafted into, not drafted, but when did you start the state squad? Like
I
how
think
old were you?
I want to say I was like 14 or 15.
Well, it's pretty young.
I was pretty young, but also footy was like so new to me then. I think now only football is like really starting to like grow in women's like footy. Like I think Oz kick was never really a thing when I was younger.
For
it definitely
women,
was.
Like for women, it wasn't really. Like,
No, like I think if you wanted to do that, you had to play with the boys, and like I didn't even know what a football was when I was like 6. So
like playing netball, you're like,
literally,
what's this?
But yeah, like ever since that ankle injury, I kind of had to like really think about what I wanted to pursue, and like
was that like the switch for you? Like, do you think?
Yeah,
like,
definitely, because I was like entering year 11 and like having to do ATAR. I know for me, I really prioritize my study, and I love studying, but I also love playing sport. So I had to pick one or the other, and I couldn't commit to both. I had to pick one. And basketball just wasn't giving me like the satisfaction. I didn't really think I had enough potential to go further, whereas football, there was so many pathways where I felt that I could probably grow and learn and challenge myself so much more in. And also the environment in footy is so different to basketball. I found basketball really toxic and really stats based, whereas football, there's like 16 girls on a field and you cannot win without all of them, all of those girls. Whereas basketball, like there's 5, so you're really limited, and like there could be 2 star players and you could just be a little
or if
number
someone's
on the
slacking,
court.
you can pick up the pace and you can like you know.
And I felt like for me, I just didn't want to be a number on a team. Like I didn't want to fill in just a spot. Like I actually wanted to make a difference in football and see how much potential I could have. And like footy, I just really flourished.
It'd be more like communities type based, wouldn't it? Because you like you get along with every single person. You'd have to, because otherwise it's not going to work.
Literally. I just think it's larger. There's more girls. You can connect with more people. I think also footy is just so tailored to like my style of sport. I'm such a team-oriented player, and I'm playing with 15 other girls, and I love it. And I think my attributes are like running carry with the footy, like being quick, agile, and like footy like just enhances that for me.
So are you still studying, or are you not going to do anything to do with study anymore?
Yes, I'm like still studying. I'm studying physio at uni at the moment, but only part-time, just because my life would be
too
all
much
over the place.
training.
Literally. But yeah, like I've always loved and enjoyed studying. I did ATAR in high school. And then
what was ATAR like, balancing that
Oh my God.
and sport? Like stress, like
I think
would be insane.
ATAR was really hard for me because in year 12, where it mattered the most, I was entering my draft year. So I was eligible for the draft at the end of that year. And I think I just had so much pressure coming from both spectrums. Like footy was so physically draining, but also mentally draining, and then so was school. And I just felt like if one thing wasn't working out, I would use the other as an outlet and coping mechanism. But when they both kind of plummeted, that was when like my world just kind of like crashed and I reached burnout. So ATAR in year 12 was definitely hard, but like wouldn't have changed it.
Did you still did ATAR, didn't you?
Yeah.
Far out. So what do you kind of do to manage the pressure? Like how do you talk yourself through it?
I've never really I wouldn't say I've had a good balance like growing up in high school. Like I just kind of dealt with it.
One or the other type of thing?
Yeah, like I didn't really have structured routines. Like I just kind of rocked to training, rocked to school, tried to manage homework here and there. Like didn't really have a routine or like was organized. But I would say now, being in the system, like you have to be organized and you're forced to be like on time. You're just gonna be really professional because you're in a professional environment.
Now you're an accountant.
Yeah, literally. Like, but in terms of like footy, if you're late, it just proves like you're not committed to the team.
Yeah.
Like you're at the highest level now. It's a professional environment, so you have to act like a professional. Like you gotta.
What happens if you're late? Do they actually get really angry?
I mean, like,
have you seen it happen? Like,
yeah, but I mean, they're pretty lenient, but also like
you're showing up for everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're late, you're not showing up for your team. But I think my phone just went off.
That's okay.
But like at the end of the day, it's your job. So it's just like being late to work. Like,
yeah,
you don't want to be late to work. So.
It's just like rocking up to work, but now you're just doing cardio and shit.
Literally, like sometimes I'm like kicking a footy. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm actually getting paid for this.
Does it feel like surreal? Like does it like sink in that you're actually like, what's it like?
It's pretty fun. Like it's a pretty cool job.
Yeah.
And I think like I realized that after I debuted. I think the whole preseason I was just so caught up in like wanting to debut, like wanting to get picked, like having to fit in. But when that like round one hit and I got picked, it was just so surreal, like hitting that field and knowing like I'm doing something I love. I'm with like my best mates, but I'm also getting paid. Yeah. We also won, which was like epic, and my family and friends were around.
Oh,
like,
what? Grand final?
No, this was round one.
Okay, yeah.
I think
so pre-season?
It was a game we won, but it was amazing.
but like seriously, like that first time winning, that'd be like pretty crazy.
It was pretty cool, but yeah, I'm like grateful.
You're actually playing like in the stadiums, aren't you?
It's like different. The AFL men's get priority. They also have more money, so they can hire out bigger stadiums, whereas the girls, we kind of just like play. Our home ground's Manuka Oval, which is in Canberra, and the boys also play there, so that's one of the ovals that we share with the men's program. But everything else is kind of like not necessarily like local footy grounds, but we either like play at, like say for Geelong, we play Geelong, we'd play at their stadium,
right,
which is where they train.
Yeah.
So just like
it's
smaller like, ovals.
So it'd be like you versing. So if Peel versus someone else, they would come to you. Yeah. Yeah. So basically like that.
Yeah. And we still travel and everything. Like it's still professional. We just don't have enough money in the system to afford to hire out stadiums.
How was, like, did you enjoy school growing up? Like, did you always enjoy school, or what was that like for you?
Yeah, growing up, I loved school. It's really nerdy of me to say, but I think I just loved school because I got to wake up every day, go see my friends.
Yeah.
Also learn, like, how my brain works. I just, like, love taking in information and learning as much as possible. So I think that's why I really enjoyed and like thrived in school, because I actually wanted to be there. But again, like that friend aspect, I got to do most of my schooling life with some of my best friends, which
that you've really carried special. On with
and I still have
school.
Those friendships like today. I really enjoyed school.
That's good. I didn't think you enjoyed school that much.
No, I actually did. Like there was definitely moments like year 11 and year 12 were just like hell, like the amount of work we got given, just because of the pressure of ATAR. And I think everyone just gets so caught up in the numbers, and like I actually don't even know
who's better than who.
Literally, like I don't even remember my ATAR score, like
because you just don't enjoy it. I think if you actually enjoy something, you'll put more effort into it.
Yeah, I think ATAR was like different. Like I got to pick what I wanted to do, which I enjoyed more. But like I did most of my courses with my best friends.
So you basically everyone was doing ATAR in your group or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Talk about more like the women's side of things. Like I know that you say like you have a lot of pressure and dealing with stuff like that. What's it like when you're in like the scene of trying to not like so fit in, but you kind of mentioned like going out and socializing. How do you go out and socialize and still keep on top with your health and stuff? Because I know that you struggled with going out a lot.
Yeah, so within high school, I struggled a lot with like accepting, I would say, myself and like my body and like being comfortable with myself. And that kind of altered the way like I thought about food. Like I said before, with my injury, like that was pretty life altering and life changing. And
was that like the pivoting point for you? Would you say like where you started? Was that like where all this came from? Like the spiraling of this?
Yeah, I would say like pre-injury, I was somewhat thinking about like making choices with my food options, but I would say like having that injury was pivotal in like the obsession of it. I was just obsessed with like food, and it would be like all I would think about. And school was hard because like I would just be thinking about lunch or recess or what I was going to eat, or it was like kind of almost like pre-planning, and it just became my life, and I was really consumed in just like numbers, food.
What's that like? So you go from having an injury, did you get told to start tracking, or was that something that you consciously started doing?
No, I think for me, which is so wrong in so many different ways, and I've learned that now, experiencing my injury I have right now, is just because you're not doing anything doesn't mean you need to fuel less. Like your body burns more calories at rest than it does when you're doing physical activity. And I didn't know that. And I thought just because I wasn't training and sport was my life. Like I had no life outside of sport besides school. So when that was taken away from me, like I had to control some aspect of my life, and that was food.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't training enough, like my mind was telling me I don't need to eat enough food. And that's just kind of where the obsession started. And it did like impact a lot of things externally, like my social life. Like I would remove myself from a lot of social situations because I was scared about, for example, like I wouldn't go to a friend's house for a sleepover because I was scared what they were going to cook me for dinner, or like have a brekkie, or I wouldn't go out for dinner because I didn't want to eat what was on the menu because I didn't know what was in it. And I think that obsession just grew so much stronger by the day. And I think it went on for about 2 years until I actually reached out and got help. And that's kind of when I made the decision to like reach out again, like I said. But also, like to this day, I'm still struggling with stuff like that. It's just more about how I go about it and like challenging myself and my head.
Yeah. Especially like when you're so young and like when you start controlling things at a young age, it's kind of like becomes your whole life.
Yeah.
And like
no different.
No, you know, no different. Like for I dealt with the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I'd bring my meal prep everywhere.
Yeah.
I just meal prep everything and bring it out to restaurants.
Yeah. And I think like also social media like glamorizes in some aspect tracking food. And like when you see that constantly, it's not triggering, but it also like fuels a fire.
Do you think that's where you kind of got it from, like social media?
I would say like it formed definitely the training aspect, like not training enough, so I don't need to fuel as much. But then it would like grow into like, I don't like the way I look. This girl looks great on social media. I don't look like that. That's how it kind of like the timeline.
So so it's more like your training, and then you kind of compare yourself to girls on social media and what they're doing.
It, like grew.
And you can't escape it because if it's like all you think about, it's really hard to get out of that cycle. And I think a lot of women actually struggle with it. Like I think every time I speak to a girl, they always struggle with something like that.
Well, yeah, it's an addiction. And I think I had friends in my group who like would struggle with eating some days. Like all girls do. All girls go through their struggles and battles with food. But I think it's just how long it prolongs for. I think mine, like, I've been thinking about food like since I was younger, but I think it really like enhanced when I was in high school, and even to this day, like I still think about it constantly. It's just I have a lot more coping mechanisms to get past it and not give in. But it's definitely not something that just like goes away. Yeah,
it's very hard to break that when it's your whole life. What would you say, like, how would that affect your training and stuff, like under fueling? Like, did you notice a huge difference, like when you started fueling yourself properly versus like, holy shit, like how much would you say you're roughly like eating a day as well?
Yeah, so with not eating and being injured, I had an S&C coach, which I worked really closely with, and I'd see him 4 times a week. And he knew. Like, he knew.
Yeah.
I was...
Like, he meant, like, he knew? Like, you told him? Or, like...
He know.
Yeah.
I didn't really tell anyone until probably, like, halfway through year 11.
Yeah, okay.
But, like, my S&C coach, like, just knew. He would ask me constantly, like, what I've ate, and I would lie to him. And, like, I just wasn't progressing in the gym. I spent a year in rehab and did not get stronger. I wouldn't say I got fitter, but I felt lighter, which made me feel like I felt fitter. But
Yeah.
I had no progress in the gym. And for me, when I look back and reflect now, it was just a waste of a year. Like,
Yeah.
I could have been fueling myself so much more, built more muscle, like, prep myself really well for the following season. But I just, like, threw it to waste because I was so obsessed with how I looked.
Like, mentally, like...
Yeah.
Now, like, you're not recovering because you're not fueling
Yeah.
properly.
And I think being an athlete's really difficult because you want to be physically ready to combat your sport, but also social media says you shouldn't look strong or you shouldn't look, like, not necessarily, like, masculine, but footy is a pretty masculine sport and you have to be really strong. And the position I play, which is inside mid, like, you pretty much have to be a bull. And, like, I'm not that. So it's really hard to, like, have to balance that aspect of life. Like, it's just pretty contradicting. Like, one day if I'm at training, I'm like, oh, I just want to be the strongest person here.
Yeah.
But then the next day, if I have my rest day, like, oh my God, well, all these girls don't look like that. I want to look like that. But I've just learned to train myself that this is my sport and my body needs to look this way to perform well in my sport. But like, also with that, I feel like now I can tell a difference between when I fuel pre-training. Like, I had to learn and do lots of research about and speak to lots of people about this, but you cannot train with nothing in your body.
No.
You physically, and with the demand and the vigorous amount of exercise I do as an athlete, you just cannot thrive or improve or progress if you're not fueling your body. It is so important.
And I think that's where, like, people get, like, this misconception on social media where they're like, oh, this girl must not be eating anything, or, like, this girl must be not eating to look like that. When in reality, they're probably eating 10 times more than what.
The fittest girls in our team are eating, like, 10 times their body weight.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, social media, like, it's just oversaturated with all these trends, and it's so frustrating because it's just not true and it's not sustainable. Like, you can't go do vigorous exercise on an empty stomach. Like, your body will be under that much stress. It's almost like a flight. What is that?
Yeah, like fight or flight. Like, in your body.
Body is trying to decide, like, it goes into survival mode because you've got nothing in your stomach. It thinks it's under so much stress. So it's trying to, like, eat away at certain stuff that it shouldn't be. Like, if you're going to go do a cardio session, you need carbs in your stomach that your body can use to fuel for that.
Especially, sorry, go.
It's just, like, it's just stupid. Like, when I think about it now, it's easier said than done. Like,
oh yeah, 100%. Like, you can tell someone, like, oh, like, this is what you have to do. But if they don't believe, like, that's what they need to do, they're going to continue.
And that was me.
Yeah.
I was stuck in a cycle.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think when this girl came to our school, Asher Holland, she's literally, like, I follow her now. But before I was like, what is she talking about? Like, I was like, I don't want to not track anymore. Like, I'm going to do a bodybuilding show. I'll be fine. But now I look back, I'm like, holy shit, she was right. But because your mind is so, like, warped in this one perspective, you don't want to believe anything different. And I think that's where girls get so stuck and they think that they're doing the right thing, but until they start, you know, experiencing, like, all these issues, like, now they don't even want to go out anymore and like experience their life because now they're just restricting and doing all these things, but in reality it's harming them, but they don't know it because that's all they know.
They're in, like, and that was me. I was in the exact same position. Like, I was in full denial, like, but also you're fully aware and you want to feed into it more. It is literally an addiction, and eating disorders are so much more than just food. And I don't think lots of people realize that. Like, my mental health was just, like, plumbing. Like, I've never been an anxious person before. Like, I've always been extroverted, but I was, like, didn't want to go out. Like, I was introverted. I wanted my own time, which is, like, good and hard. Like, you can have your own time, but I was, like, purposely removing myself from social
Yeah.
situations because I just didn't want to talk.
Were you just saying like, I wanted time for myself just so you
I
could
like,
get out of it?
I just think
or
I would ignore people. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even like give a reason.
Yeah.
And my friends like did get pissed off. Like, and
Yeah,
fair
of
enough.
course.
If they were doing that to me, like I would be pissed
Like,
off
what the
too.
fuck?
But until I fully came out and kind of said like the position I was in, they were really understanding. And
I think everyone is understanding when you tell them.
Yeah.
Because they want to be there and support you, but you're like, holy shit, like this is what I'm like, this is my whole life. And people,
Yeah.
you probably think that you're alone
Yeah.
going through something like that
yeah,
at such a young
But-
age.
like every girl goes through something like this. Not every girl, but
Majority.
It's just like, it's life. Like, you got to figure out yourself, like how comfortable and confident you are in your own body, and food is an aspect of that. Like,
Yeah.
we eat it every day. Of course we're going to think about it, but
Yeah.
it's just how, for me, like at this current stage where I am in my life, I just got to think of like the ways I can cope if I do get anxious about food. And I see somewhere now, I talk about how I feel. I never would have done that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So like I have improved a lot in terms of like how I perceive food. But then again, like you're always going to have a voice in the back of your head. It's just how you ignore it.
Yeah.
and how
Or what
don't
you
let
do
it.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you like do now to kind of, like if something comes up, are you stressed about it still? Or like how do you kind of navigate situations now?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is like self-talk. If I go out for dinner and I look at myself after and I see something I don't like, I will say it out loud.
Yeah.
And hearing yourself say that's really hurtful, but like trying to just self-talk your way out of it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not true. Like, it's just your thoughts. Like, you don't look like that. And obviously, like, if I go and eat a meal, I'm going to be bloated after. That's
Yeah.
just how...
It's life.
That's just how digestion works. Like, no shit. Like, if I eat a full pizza, like, of course, I'm going to feel full after it.
Yeah.
But, like, I've turned that being full as a negative into a positive.
Yeah.
I'm teaching my stomach how to withhold more food than what it's used to. And, like, the feeling of being full, it's just like going to the gym every day. Like, you're training to make your muscles bigger. Well,
Yeah.
I'm training to make sure my stomach can hold this much food, to make me feel satiated, to make me feel full, to make me live pretty much. And
100%. And now you're like training your brain to
Yeah.
think differently. So
Yeah.
everything is like a muscle.
it's such a mind over matter thing.
Yeah, literally. Like now, like you said, you're going to the gym, you're training.
Yeah.
But if you're not strengthening your mind at the same time, you're going to suffer mentally
Yeah.
and you're going to end up going backwards in those habits you built
Yeah.
because you haven't actually taught your brain how to think differently.
An example of that as well, like, I'm currently injured right now. I injured myself in October, and that was really triggering for me because that's kind of where all this
Yeah.
started. But now I've got sources in place. I go to therapy. Like, that's my routine. I've got people that support me and are aware of what I'm going through, so I won't like divot and go down that loophole again. But also going through that, like, that life experience has taught me so much. I would never want to relive
100%.
those 2 years again.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like I'm so much stronger now. And now that I'm going through the exact same thing where I started this whole journey, the way I've navigated is so much different. It's more, I want to be strong because I want to
Yeah.
play something I love. I want to I want to play footy. I want to be out there again. Like, I hate not being there right now.
Yeah.
So it's just more motivation. But yeah, I'm really grateful that like my head's just in a great space.
What
to
was
do
it
that.
like getting injured again? How was your self-talk different from like last time you got injured to now? Was it a lot different, or did you kind of notice yourself? Were you more aware of it this time when you kind of like heard yourself going back into negative thought patterns? Did you kind of catch it out?
Yeah, like my first injury, the ankle recon, that was my first ever like proper major injury. So obviously the way I thought about it was going to be so different to now. But this one, it's just more so I'm not so worried about like food or like the obsession with food. I'm more thinking about I need food to like heal myself. Like, it's not going to get better if I don't eat. I'm not going to build muscles to be able to run again if I don't eat.
So it's a lot different
It's
now.
so much different.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like, I never would have thought I'd be thinking like this 2 years ago, but I have so much like systems put in place for me to not go down that direction again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm constantly speaking to people and they're telling me that I need to do this. I have programs right now that I need to do in order to accomplish like getting out there in the field. And I also have a surgeon appointment coming up. Like if that surgeon tells me I need surgery, I obviously haven't done the right thing.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just trying to do everything in my willpower to get the best result out of the surgeon's mouth. So that includes eating. So
that includes eating more food. So what would you kind of say to like your younger self, like from like 2 years ago? Like what would you say to that person to where you are now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I don't even know. I think I would just say like love yourself. Like it is so sad when like I speak about it now, or when I speak to groups of girls and they're going through what I had been through. Like it's really sad. If you wouldn't want your friend to go through something like this, why would you want yourself? And like at the end of the day, you only have you, and if you don't love you, how, like, what is life?
Yeah, because if you constantly hate the person you are, like, are you truly living your life?
Literally. And like those 2 years, I wouldn't say were necessarily wasted, but they were the longest years of my life, and I did not improve as a person at all. I was just like degrading myself completely and depleting my body. Whereas now, like, I'm at the happiest I've ever been. I'm more confident in myself, and I'm 10 kilos heavier than I were.
Yeah, because you love yourself.
Because I love myself.
Yeah,
and
you don't care. You just love yourself.
Literally, and I can go eat whatever I feel like I need to, and I feel happy with my body. And obviously, I go through days where I'm like, I don't like the way I look, but that's just human nature. Like, you're not going to love yourself every single day, but
you deal with it so much differently now. Like, you probably won't spiral as much as you used to. You probably won't go down this rabbit hole. You probably won't be like, oh my God, well, I'm not going to eat for the rest of the week then.
No, literally.
You'd be like, no, my body still deserves love today.
Yeah. And I think I've just got lots of different hobbies now. I never used to have hobbies when I was in school going through stuff, because
we didn't think your purpose. Like, you didn't like, what's my purpose? You're like, who am I?
My purpose was literally sport, and if I didn't have sport, which I didn't have, I didn't know what it was, so it became food. But now, like, if I'm stressed or anxious, I'll go for a walk, or if I'm stressed and anxious, I'll call a family member. I like to swim now. Like, I never used to like to swim. I'm trying to learn how to surf, like just stuff like this, like having things that can keep me busy and not sitting by myself in my thoughts. Yeah. And like, that's hard again. Like, I don't like to not do stuff, because I do go down that spiral, and that's something that I'm still navigating now. Not
like
so much
trying
the
to sit with yourself.
Just trying to sit with myself and be present. And I get stuck in my thoughts. So I like to constantly be busy, but also knowing that your body does need rest.
100%.
And like, there is times where you just need to take a chill pill and like
have a rest.
And that's what my walks are like.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that what you do? Like, when you're stressed, you're like resting.
And as athletes, like, we're encouraged to do active recovery. So if we have a rest day, our recovery program would be like, go to an ice bath or a sauna, or go get a massage, or go and tick your legs over on a bike, or go for a walk. Like, just small, low intensity movements. And when I do those stuff, it makes me feel like I'm still training, because I'm treating myself.
And you're giving yourself like love, essentially. Like, you're taking care of yourself.
And I feel so much better for it, instead of bloody going for like a 10K run.
And hating yourself.
Literally.
Do you journal and stuff or anything like that? Do you just like get up and just get on with the day?
Obviously my psych told me about therapy and about journaling, and I've never really been into it, but there are days where like I just need to get something on paper, so I will. And I actually have a journal, and I look back at it now, and I look back at all the pages that I used to like write, and it's actually really cool just to see like how far you've come, and like how you were feeling one day to the other.
And like, if you feel like that again, you can be like, oh, how did I deal with it like last time to get over it? Or like, oh, I know this for, I know what I can do now to get over it. Yeah.
I find for me, sometimes I just hate writing. Like, I just hate it. So I get my phone out and I film myself and do like a video journal, because it's just for me, it's just easy to talk to a camera, and like I almost speak to the camera like I'm speaking to a friend. Yeah. And then like more that's in my camera roll for myself. Like, I've gotten everything I need to talk to my phone as if I'm talking to a friend. And that just makes me feel a lot better.
What do you do for like self-care and stuff?
Right, what do I do? Again, like, I go for walks. Yeah. I love getting like massages. Yes. My body as an athlete gets so
once a week, once or twice a week.
Well, at the club we get offered massages, so I usually go twice a week.
Yeah, because like all that high intensity all the time.
It's pretty, it's
Do you
cruel.
feel recovered or not? Like,
I used to have a Whoop, and he used to tell me I was like recovered every day. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm
like
not.
crippling.
No, I'm not. So I'd take that off because I was like, this is too much for
It's
me.
like, it's actually, that's even triggering as well.
Oh, it is.
Because you're like...
I'd wake up with like shit recovery, but I'm like, what? But I feel good.
Yeah.
Like, what? But I had to take that off and remove myself from that. But yeah, like massages, walking. I love to like go to the beach.
Yeah.
Hanging out with friends. Like just going like, just doing stuff for me and like filling my cup up with whatever I feel is necessary. And it like, obviously it's day to day, whatever I feel like doing, I'll do. But having me time.
Yeah, so important, because if you're constantly like busy and over stressing yourself, when you finally sit with yourself, you're like, holy shit, like I'm so stressed.
Literally.
Because it's just like that distraction, all that and stuff as well. And people don't realize, like you said, you have to look after yourself to be better.
Yeah.
Because if you're not like fueling yourself, not looking after yourself, it's going to catch up to you, and it's going to like plummet your mental health as well.
Yeah.
But
and I thought like rest days, for me, I perceived them as like bad. Like I didn't want to do them. Like I wanted to do stuff on my rest days, but also if I did stuff on my rest days, I wouldn't be able to perform 100% on my training days because I haven't had that recovery I needed.
Yeah.
So now like by implementing like massages, again, like journaling, walks, like really low intensity, like mindful activities makes me feel like I'm doing something in like quotation marks, like strenuous.
Yeah.
When it's really not. But like keeping myself busy and doing stuff, even working on my rest days, like I just find doing something and being like productive helps me feel a lot better about recovering.
Because you're like reconnecting with yourself.
Yeah.
And like, oh, this is like, I need this today.
Yeah.
But what would you say, because you did like talks and stuff with schools and stuff.
Yeah.
What would you say to like other women who are struggling? Because I know that when you do all these talks and stuff, you notice that a lot of women or like young girls are actually really struggling with this. So what would you say to like younger people who are going through this, and how can they navigate it to maybe get their like one foot in front of the other to get out of this cycle?
Yeah. I think the first step is like just bringing up the conversation. Like I wish when I was in high school, and I think again, like when Ash spoke to us, like that was before everything started plummeting, but like it's just so nice hearing girls' real life experiences and understanding that you're just not alone. And when you provoke such emotions out of these young girls, it's a feeling like money cannot buy. Like you just feel so satisfied and proud. And for me, like my biggest advice would be, I have girls come up to me all the time and I can't give them professional advice, but I would just say like to put your foot through the door and go seek help. Like there are so many online resources, schools, like you can get a school counselor. Like I know like that's just a baseline level. Yeah. But they can assess you, and at least you're talking to someone about how you feel. And for me, when I spoke about my feelings and when I first came out about my problems with food, I spoke to the school and I spoke to someone I didn't know because I felt more comfortable talking to someone that didn't know anything about me.
Yeah.
I didn't feel comfortable telling my parents because they know the ins and outs of my life.
Yeah.
And this was something that was really private to me, and I wanted someone that I didn't know to know. And then I told my parents, which was the next step. And then I got further help. So I went and saw a psych outside of school. And I would just say, there is just so many resources, and just use them. Like we have phones. It's at our fingertips. Like it's all around you.
Everything is literally right there for you.
Literally, it's just about putting your foot through the door. And if you don't take that first step, then you'll never know. And also, life is so short. Like you just want to live your younger years to your fullest self. And like if you're depleting your body of certain stuff, you're just not going to reach your full potential and full happiness. And it's really sad when you see these young girls already feeling like this way. And
they're literally like 10 or 12 years old.
I know, it's really sad. And you can't blame your phone because that's not the be all end all. That's not the reason, but it's another aspect.
Probably like another contributor because it's like social media and even like following people who are actually more inspiring instead of like people who are like, you know, maybe they're you know, dieting all the time and stuff like that. That's going to really at a young age really sink those thoughts into your head as well.
For me, like on my social media, I know I don't follow people that I don't align with. I don't find value in. like I know seeing that stuff won't make me happy.
Yeah.
So like I'm addicted to TikTok at the moment, but like I will only follow people that I like agree with and that inspire me but don't put me in a shit headspace as well.
Yeah.
Because I know there's some people out there and they can inspire you, but they can also make you feel really bad about yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think it's just picking and choosing who you follow on social media.
Or if you really like that person, maybe just mute them for a while.
Yeah.
And then like if you feel good, maybe you can start incorporating their content back in again.
Yeah.
But if it's going to be triggering for you, maybe it's time to really rethink of who you're following.
Yeah.
And maybe like if those videos come up on your page, you don't watch them, you just keep scrolling.
It's really underrated. And honestly, it takes 10 minutes. Like go through your following.
Yeah, honestly.
Like it's really not that hard. And that was something I didn't do until maybe like a year and a half ago. But it's
unfollowing people, like you said.
Yeah, and like if you're in school, so be it. Like once you're out of school, it means jack shit.
It's honestly like so refreshing. Like
Yeah.
you don't need to follow people just because. Like you can unfollow people and you're the creator of your life and you can choose what you put in your brain.
And what you want to see.
And what you want to watch, essentially. Literally. Yeah. So if you're constantly watching like all this stuff, like of course it's going to be the only thing you think about.
Yeah.
And you can literally, it's a 10-second video you can scroll.
Yeah.
Another one will come up.
Yeah.
It's never ending. So you can always scroll and move past these videos.
Yeah.
And I think people think they're like, oh my God, like it's on my page and they're so engrossed in it. But you're just feeding into this delusion that you're believing. And you're feeding into like this like fake reality that you put into your head.
It
that's
fuels
like
your fire.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
But what is one piece of advice you would give to everyone today?
Listening. Goodness. I would say probably if you're struggling, just open up to someone and speak to someone about how you feel. I know like you've received lots of DMs about like girls and their problems with their women's health stuff.
Yeah.
And like even me, I love talking about this stuff. Although I still struggle with it, like it's something that I actually care for and I actually love talking about it and relating with other people. So I think if you're struggling, there is always someone next door that has something similar going on.
100%. I had no idea that you went
like
literally like similar experiences, but literally you would never think like, oh, someone that you might know has actually been through something similar. And or like, people you might, like you said, might be struggling, but they don't speak about it. And they're dealing with all this internal stress that they're not releasing, essentially.
I just think you feel a lot better when you can relate to someone and talk about and confide in your problems. If like, even if that's someone in your corner, like I know my partner and we speak about lots of private and close stuff to me and he listens. I speak to my family, I speak to my friends. Like it can be anyone, it can be a stranger, like it could be you, like you know what I mean? Like it's anyone, and just getting the word out there and starting the conversation and starting to put positive like alignment to the conversation is so much better. I think eating disorders are sometimes also deemed really negative, but I think if we speak about it positively and how we can overcome it, it has so much benefits.
100%. There's just so many people out there that are actually struggling that we don't know about, and like you putting light on a situation that probably a lot of people probably won't speak about in your community, or like it's probably not really talked about enough. Or maybe you might speak to someone and they actually are going through. It's like, holy shit, there's a lot of people going through it that you don't actually know about. And like I think this is why your story is so valuable to people and women, because it's like showing that we're not always alone, and like there actually is a light at the end of the tunnel. Like you can actually get through it if you want to, and if you actually want to do the work. Like it's not going to be easy, but what's going to be harder, like you feeding into this negative story for the rest of your life and hating yourself for the rest of your life? Or do you actually want to flip it and actually learn to love yourself and who you actually are as a person and start fucking living your life and like not giving a fuck about all this shit?
The hardest bit I would say is definitely understanding what you've got going on and then opening up to someone. That is the hardest thing. And then after that, it's just committing to the process and committing to getting better. And I think once you learn to love yourself, and that can happen like that in your journey, or can happen really prolonged in your journey, but whatever moment something clicks is when it becomes so much more easier. But I think getting your foot through that door is definitely the hardest thing, because this is not talked about enough.
No,
like,
it's not.
Conversations like this are deemed so negatively, but again, like I just want to shed light and think it's not a bad thing to talk about.
It's not a bad thing. Like people, like they think this is their identity, but you can change who you want to be. Like for me, it was something that I struggled with for so long. So like I had to basically change my identity. Like, okay, who is this person that I need to become? And what does she do every single day to become this person?
You're so much more than
you're so much more than
your mental health.
100%. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you'd like to talk about?
I think that's it.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been lovely to have you on. But yeah, I really do think that this is an incredible story that people need to hear more of and shed more light on. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. And yeah.
Thank you for having me. Bye, guys.